Hey, everybody, and welcome to Old Roommates. Today on the show, Three's Company. We revisit the 1977 Season 1 of Three's Company, so grab your share of the rent money, have a seat, and get ready.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. It is Old Roommates, the only podcast that revisits pop culture through a middle-aged lens. This is Christina.
And this is Brian. And before we go any further, not sure if we're sounding a little different. We are trying, it's a little bit experimental. We are actually recording today at What Chair Writers Club, their podcast studio. What Chair is a really cool club that I'm a member of. Mm-hmm. And so this episode was recorded in the podcast. Oh, I'm just repeating myself. Sorry, I'm reading a blurb.
In case you didn't know.
No, because I have to read. I do have to read this.
Yeah, we're sounding differently.
We are sounding different, yeah. So basically, visit them online at whatchairclub.org or stop by the club at 160 Westminster Street. In downtown Providence. What Chair Writers Club, this is the part of the street, is not responsible for any content produced in this club studio because
Can I say that too?
Crazy.
Can I say I'm not responsible for anything that we say? But no, this place is really cool.
Yeah.
Stop by, especially if you're into writing and networking with some really cool local people. Yeah. And were you a member in New York too?
No, this is
just a Providence thing.
Yeah,
it's
Rhode
fantastic.
Island,
it's so much fun, so cool. Everyone is super friendly. So yeah,
it's a great.
Thank you. What Chair?
So Three's Company. Do you want me to start? So as we usually start with then.
Yes.
This is really funny because I'm looking at Christina. She has a giant microphone.
I can barely see you.
In her headphones, these giant headphones on. This is pretty cool. So we're taking pictures. But so anyway, so Three's Company, I actually have something personal. I think you know this, right?
I do. Yeah. I do. And this is actually one of the reasons why I wanted to do this because you said this story and I thought it was really cool and I thought it would be really fun to revisit. So take it away, Brian. Let's hear it.
I think a lot of my close friends know this. So back then, when I was watching Three's Company, it was on Channel 56 in Boston. But when I was very young, I ended up having to go from private school to public school in fourth grade, or I guess parochial school to public school. Mm-hmm. Was it private? I don't even know. But and so when I went, I was instantly like picked on, bullied, but the word was gay, and they kept saying, "Oh, you're gay, you're gay, you're gay." I was 9. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is all 100% real.
Right.
And I didn't honestly know what it meant. So in parochial school, you don't talk about such things. You don't talk about sex, certainly, or even even in parochial school, you have a boys' side and a girls' side. So you weren't even allowed to really talk to girls.
Were you allowed to talk at all? Wouldn't you get your hands
you get slapped
by a ruler?
You would get your face slapped. I won't say the school, but this is the 70s, and it was pretty abusive. But otherwise, it was pretty much a goody two shoes, which I also didn't think served me well in public school.
Right.
I knew nothing about anything, nothing about, say, sex or nothing. So the word was gay, and I didn't know what it meant, but I knew from the way it was being used that it was a bad thing to be. But I couldn't obviously talk to my mom about hey, what does gay mean? Because then she would say, well, why? And I was just say, oh, the kids at school tell me I'm gay.
You don't want your mom to worry.
Exactly. So I was watching Three's Company, and sure enough, it was the first episode where it was it's okay that Jack lives here because he's gay. And the crowd busts out laughing. The studio audience starts laughing. And I'm like, oh, my God. That's what the kids call me.
Even the reaction.
Yeah, the reaction is comical. So I'm like, well, everyone's laughing. Maybe it's not so bad. And well, let me ask my mom, because now I have an out. If she says why, I'll say I'm watching TV and they said gay. So I go to my mom, she's in the kitchen. I'll never forget this. And I said, Mom, I guess, what does gay mean? She's like, oh, why? That's not how my mom talks. But she was like, why?
Dee, I apologize.
No. She wasn't like that at all.
No.
She's, and she said, well, can I ask why you're asking? And I said, well, they just said it on Three's Company because Jack is quote unquote gay, that he can live with 2 girls. She said, well, when a boy, this is what she said, when a boy likes a girl and they kiss, and I said, yeah. She's like, well, it's like a boy liking a boy and they kiss. Mm-hmm. And my right hand, Christina, I'm raising my right hand.
Yeah,
am I not?
You are.
my brain was like, cool.
Right.
Like, totally cool. Like, there was nothing, and that probably should have been a note in my head, like, why do people think that's gross? It didn't hit me as gross. It was just, like, kind of different and cool. I didn't think there was anything wrong with it.
Right.
So I credit Three's Company, getting back to the topic, with kind of opening that door of, like, is it a big deal? It's a big deal to some people. It's not a big deal to others. It's funny to some people. It's serious to others. And I credit, like, their place, Three's Company's sort of pop culture place in my life, because it opened up a conversation that I don't know when else that would have happened, and it probably would have been a big problem for me for a long time before seeing that.
Sure. And I wonder, even if you hadn't had that conversation or if you haven't seen that show, if, when you would have had that, kind of conversation with anybody, would it have been when you were in puberty and you started having specific feelings, or if,
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting to think about that.
It probably would. I think one of my guesses what would have happened is that since we were 9, I think as we all got older, the insults would have been more specific.
Oh,
if you catch my drift.
Probably.
Yeah, a little more detailed.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, that was me. But I think, but when I see like a 9-year-old kid now, I'm like, I went through that being that little, and it blows my mind. Because I think, you hear, I mean, not to go dark, but like, you do hear like kids having a really hard time and taking drastic measures to get out of situations. And it's really crazy to think about what little kids go through on a daily. And then it's worse with social media, but it's a different conversation.
Yeah, I mean, and this could be a very long conversation, but, as a preschool teacher, I can see, how different it is now in a lot of like the attitudes. I mean, we see kids that, gay or straight, they'll come in, boys or girls, but they'll come in with like nail polish on their nails, and it's completely accepted. So I feel like in a lot of ways that, hopefully we've come a long way since those days where, having a show about, someone being gay is funny, or even not being able to live in an apartment, because you're gay. Like, it's come a long way in a lot of ways, but I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it's easier in a lot of ways, because people are a little more accepting, but it's also harder in a lot of ways because of all the social media, and how I think that's a huge problem with youth, and having the hiding behind a screen kind of situation.
Also having no shut-off button.
And just, I mean, it's a scary thing. But anyway, I don't know how
that was personal.
So anyway, that's the hour.
All right, so let's dive in. So back then, that was my connection. And then therefore, I really loved Three's Company.
Sure.
How was your take on it then?
So I watched it when it actually aired. So it was, I'll never forget, it was Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, and then Three's Company. And then it was Too Close for Comfort after that. So it was like, I don't know if it was Tuesday. I think it was a Tuesday night. For some reason, I'm thinking it was a Tuesday night. Could have been a Thursday. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I really loved the show, and I think part of the reason why I loved it is because it sort of had that naughtiness to it. Like, I kind of knew I was a little young for it to be watching, and I loved that aspect of it. I remember really, loving John Ritter. I loved all of them. I loved Larry. I loved it, and I thought it was funny. I'm saying a lot. I'm sorry. I think these microphones are making me more aware.
It's the headphones. You hear every little thing.
So I liked it.
Yeah. Good.
Long story short.
Yeah,
I liked it. Yeah, I enjoyed it, and I thought it was funny. I think I watched every season.
Yeah, I think I did too. Like, I remember, because I remember, like, even when after Suzanne Summers left, Jenny Lee Harrison, and they did like a Charlie's Angels thing, right? Like,
yes,
she left,
it was her cousin,
right? And then Priscilla Barnes replaced Jenny Lee Harrison pretty quickly. I liked all of them. I
wasn't a big fan of the Jenny Lee Harrison. I thought it was she was trying too hard to be Suzanne Summers' character.
Giggly,
and I liked the fact that Priscilla Barnes came in and she was a little bit smarter.
Yeah.
And she was a nurse, and it worked better.
It did work better. That's right. So now, so we rewatched season 1. And season 1 is weirdly 6 episodes.
6 episodes. I'm assuming it was a mid-season replacement.
Yeah.
But I read a little bit about it and just saying that, here's 6 episodes to try. And that's all they got, and no one really thought it was going to be successful.
Oh.
But of course, it was based on, England, British version or whatever of Man About the House or something like that, and that's what it was based on. But so it was 6 episodes for the entire first season.
It's amazing.
And it ended up being wildly successful.
And it was great for us.
It was perfect for us.
Okay, I want to watch a whole season. It's 6 episodes. So that was great. So let's just dive in. Do you want to? I'll just start. The first episode. It is. And this is pretty consistent. It feels like a play.
Oh, my gosh.
Brian,
it says it right down here. What does it say? Wait, I had it written down here. It says weird angles. It's almost like a stage show.
Yeah.
The way that it's all set up.
It's so physical. It's a lot of walking in and out of rooms. It's doors knocking, slamming doors. And I mean, that's sort of a general note. It's very broad. Particularly Joyce DeWitt. Joyce, if you're listening.
Sorry, Joyce.
I struggled. I remember truly being young and struggling with her energy level. It's kind of, we talk about this with these 80s and 70s and 80s shows. And I wonder if it's the element of a studio audience that makes certain performers I don't want to say overact. That sounds like an insult. But what do you know
I know
what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying. And I will tell you that she came from, more of a play, like a stage career. And I think that might be part of it. Like, she was more of like a serious actor. And she was not really interested in the fame. And we can talk about this a little bit later, the controversy surrounding the show a few seasons in, because Suzanne Summers was really into being famous. And that's what she wanted. She wanted to be the star of the show. Yeah. John Ritter was just the star of the show. Yes. Like, he was a little bit more established. And then Joyce DeWitt, she was more of a stage actor, and she just wanted to act. She was in it for the process. But I think that's part of it. Like, I think she treated it as almost like a stage show. And I think you're right with the studio audience. If you have that background and then you're acting in front of a studio audience, I can't imagine it would be easy to switch to sitcom mode.
And at the same time, I was like, I appreciate her energy in some of the episodes because I feel like she made it like her screaming. She screams quite a bit.
She does.
And she has a great scream, great scream. And I think it heightens some things that could otherwise be really corny, but she would make them not serious, but she would make them more exciting by being so over the top. And I was like, she's actually, even though she's crazy, she's elevating the material.
Yes.
She's giving me more reason to care, even though I would say 70% of some of her choices are a little overdone or overacted. I have to jump, since we're talking about the audience, episode, the one where Jack goes on a date with Mr. Roper's niece.
Episode 3.
Did you notice, and everyone, episode 3, season 1, try and check this out. Jack goes on a date with Mr. Roper's niece.
Okay.
And it's Janet's birthday.
Yes.
He comes back with a gift, and the gift is the cameo. Christina. He gives the cameo to Janet. Chrissy says, "Oh, Janet, your cameo." And someone in the studio audience goes, "Your cameo." Did you hear it?
No.
I don't know when you have to.
Gosh.
So Christina let me borrow the copy from her library.
I'm going to definitely rewatch
Go back. Episode 3. It's at the very end. And the audience laughs at the person that made fun of Suzanne Summers. Christina, I am not.
Oh my gosh, how funny.
I remember that from when I was a kid.
You remember that happening?
Oh my gosh. Wait. I was like, what was that sound? And I was like, oh my God, they made fun of Suzanne Summers with her line reading. I was like, oh, Janet, your cameo. And you can hear, oh, Janet, your cameo. And people laugh.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's so creepy. It's weird.
Wow. I'm surprised they kept it in.
I am surprised too. I'm really surprised.
So weird.
And let's see. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to start with, so do we want to go through the episodes? Because I know we do a shallow dive here.
Right.
But, I did make some notes on some of these episodes, and I just thought it was kind of funny. Like, so Chrissy's character is the dumb, blonde, whatever. And first of all, I thought it was interesting because I didn't remember him, like Jack Tripper, being so obsessed with her throughout the whole series. Like, I thought it was the first. I thought it was like the first episode. I remembered that much. Yeah. But it really is like he's really trying to get with her the entire series, and it's really awkward. And you would have thought that they would have had a conversation, like a real sit down. I think they kind of glossed over it a little bit on the show, but they should have had sort of a sit down conversation and say, look, this is platonic. Nothing is ever going to happen, and if you can't respect that, then leave. But I think that maybe that part of, then and now.
100%. I agree. That is one of my bigger notes on this, is the Chrissy Jack thing. Yeah. Because I'm like, first of all, it's exhausting. And I do wonder, though, is it because, like, I watched 3 episodes one night, the other 3 the other night. Yeah. And I'm like, is it because I'm binging that it's so
I did 2 and 2.
Gross. Imagine living with someone who wants to have sex with you, who who you're not romantically involved with. Like, I know we're at a different time, and this is the wild 70s, I guess. But, like, it's problematic. And thank God, Janet, a lot of her lines are like, oh, Jack, come on. Like, and it's like, it brings it back. But it's like, in one episode, this is relevant because she says, episode 6, he walks up behind Janet and, like, sort of not gropes her, but he kind of like wants to, like, kiss her or something. Yeah. And she's like, Jack, what are you, a sex maniac? And I wrote, a valid question. It is a valid question. He's so obsessed.
It's very it's like one note almost. It's just too much. Like the first episode I could see, but then like they should have toned it down.
Remembering back then though. I mean, do you remember being like young then and being like, did it register? Like, wow, he's really over the top with him wanting Chrissy.
Not really. I mean, I felt like everything he did was funny. Like, I just felt like, I didn't see it as like a woman being, molested or whatever it was, right? Yeah. Looking at it now, I'm surprised I didn't see it that way. But I was, how old was I? 77? So I was 10 years old. So
he is a goofball. The audience is always laughing.
He was so good at it, too. Yeah. But anyway, so what I was going to say before about Chrissy is it was interesting because she's supposed to be the dumb blonde. Yeah. But I would say, especially in the first few episodes, she had some really smart one-liners. Yeah. And I'm like, is she really that dumb? Like, it wasn't very consistent with who she was supposed to be. She just had a lot of smart lines. One of them I said, it said, I don't know what the setup is. I have to start writing more of the setup, but it said something like too much Geritol, and it was a funny, smart one-liner, but I forget what it was about.
She did a great job shooting down the guy that was hitting on her at the bar at the Regal Beagle.
Yes.
Because she's like, well, why don't you, whatever, go.
Yeah. There's a few times that she did a really nice job of, like, that was like was it number 2? Episode 2? No. It was when he was trying to be tough. And I wrote that down too. Jack the Giant Killer. Yeah. Episode 5. Yeah. And I'm like, Chrissy did a great job of sticking up for herself. Like, why did he even need to step in?
That's right.
Like, I know obviously it's because of the episode and like there wouldn't have been an episode otherwise. But yeah, she did a great job of sticking up for herself.
And it was witty. It was smart, sharp.
Yeah.
Like, comebacks.
So, it was just sort of like funny that if she's supposed to be dumb, that they gave her such smarter kind of lines. I don't know.
Yes.
Anyways.
Overall note about the first 3 episodes, maybe even 4. No, 4 is the dog. So the first 3 episodes, I was shocked at how, to be frank, like unimaginative the plots were. In fact, I would argue the first 2 episodes are exactly the same plot because the first one is Mr. Roper won't allow it, but then he finds out Jack is quote unquote gay. It's all a lie.
Which, by the way, why wouldn't they just tell them like the truth and say it was like against religion or something. Like, sorry. The whole premise of it was kind of funny to me that like the landlord wouldn't allow two girls and a guy to live together. Like the premise of it was weird. He could have said that they were cousins. He could have said it was against his religion, or he was like already married or something. Like it didn't have to be gay.
Did you hear my stomach?
No, I didn't.
These microphones, I am so afraid what they're picking up.
Oh my gosh, I know.
These microphones are good, but my stomach just
Anyways.
growled. Anyway, so then the second episode is truly
The
Chrissy's
same
mom won't allow
exact
it. And to your point,
thing.
Christina, I think so. This is sort of a problematic thing where it's like the 70s, like There's even a comment about like, hey, whatever happened to the sexual revolution? And Chrissy says, you lost.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, or
Yep.
your side lost or whatever. So you get this idea that there's like some residual like wild and crazy sex going on. And there's even a reference to a gay couple that lives next door, right? Like Theodore and Arthur. Remember that joke?
Yeah.
And so then there's so you have that thing. So then Mr. Roper is like, none of that craziness in my building. So because there's sort of a sexually sort of like volatile time, he wants to squash it. So what is safer? But then
Mrs. Roper is like the opposite.
But then you know what? But Christine, to your point, if you're Mr. Roper, do you want a gay man, a single gay man living in your building?
Well,
because that can be problematic too.
He was so homophobic.
Yes.
Like I was surprised. Like
he even allowed it anyway.
Like right? Why would he allow a gay
if he
man?
was
Like
so homophobic.
Clearly, he had no idea what a gay man was. Obviously, never knew a gay man. He talked about Tinkerbell and
the word
doing
normal.
nails. Normal. I wrote that so many. It's been in there all the time.
I think it was almost in every episode.
It's
anytime the word gay, the opposite was normal.
Yep.
It was
Oh,
like,
so disturbing.
Oh my God, it was really
so
bad.
disturbing.
Yeah.
But talked about him wearing a dress and completely unaware of what it was to be gay. So if someone is that homophobic, are you going to want to
Christina,
have them live in the building?
You just unlocked the whole problem with the show.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. There's a lot more to talk about. I did think it was interesting. I appreciated the conversation Janet and Chrissy have. I think it's in episode 2 or 3 where Janet says, if Jack didn't live here, would you dig him?
Yes, and I have that. Actually, I liked that conversation.
Yeah, me too. That's my plus. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked that conversation. They have this nice little conversation about. I thought it was cute. Like they're sitting on the couch and they're saying, they were giggling and what do you think about Jack and that kind of thing. I thought that was a really cute conversation.
Mm-hmm. Same. We agree. Well, is that our first agreement?
It might be.
Let's see. Oh. This blew my mind. One of the biggest shocks. Episode 5, there's a joke. And Chrissy says to Mr. Roper, see, this is what happens with men. This is why women should be running the world or running the country. And Mr. Roper says, oh, yeah, women running the country. They would just, no, she's like, there wouldn't be any wars or something. I ruin every quote I attempt. But it's like
it's hard to write down the quotes.
It is tough. It's like women running the world. And Mr. Roper's like, oh yeah, women running the world. What would they? Yeah, there wouldn't be any wars. They would just nag each other to death. The audience went crazy, woo-hooing, applauding. I'm talking like probably a 3 solid second.
So that's interesting, and I feel like I remember that in that, yeah. And I wonder if the main demographic of this audience were males, like straight males. Because if you think about like all the jokes are like about sex, about women's bodies or whatever.
Yeah.
There's such a sexualness about it, like we talked about before. I wonder if like that their main audience was like men.
Be curious to see like what kind of TV commercials they showed.
Yeah.
Like on the
if it had that much of a reaction.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It seems like that would be the target audience.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're definitely an audience that would say, oh, I get where Jack's coming from.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get why he's a pervert. I do think John. Okay, another overall note, and I think the show is so much better when the characters are working together on something. I don't like it when like one of them is the focus. I feel like because their chemistry as a cast is so strong. Like,
really, right from the beginning.
It is. And I think like I like when the rent money goes missing.
Yes.
And there is an amazing scene where Jack and Janet are looking for the envelope of money, and Chrissy walks in.
$300.
$300 rent.
$300 rent.
Which, is that equally split? Because Janet and Chrissy share a room.
I know, right?
That's bizarre.
Yeah. And they did before Eleanor left.
They did.
The original.
Why did Eleanor
Did you
get
think
her
it was
own room?
funny that Eleanor was living with them and she was pregnant when she got... Did you catch that in the first episode?
Yeah.
We talked about how she had to leave her own party, her own reception because she went into labor.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? She wasn't living with her fiance. She was living with Janet and Chrissy. And she got pregnant, and like, isn't that so funny? Like, so she was 9 months pregnant, living with Janet and Chrissy, but she was getting married, so it was worse for her to be living with the fiance. Like, the jig's up. Like, she's pregnant.
Well, maybe that's why she had her own room. Maybe the fiance was staying with him once in a while, but Mr. Roper would never allow that. It's layered.
Yes.
It's layered.
Yeah.
But again, I love. So when Chrissy walks in and she's like, "Hey guys," and Jack jumps into the bathroom. Oh my God! It's like. And so Carl watched that episode with me, and he laughed out loud, and I was like, it's funny because that is what I remember of Three's Company. Like those physical jumps,
and
those gags, the screams.
Amazing. He was amazing at those pratfalls, and it was funny every time, which surprised me because I remembered that about it, and I remember it being all like pratfalls basically, and thinking to myself, am I gonna like enjoy this? Like again, and he was so good. It made me so sad. He was really, really good from the very beginning. He was very entertaining. He was all in.
Yeah.
He was all in.
He was just a realized character. He when he steps out of the bathtub and he slips, like the first scene, it's perfect.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
You know
what I loved about that? When he's in the bathtub and they turn the shower on so he's soaking wet or whatever, and then they open up the curtain, and the first thing he does is he like covers his like genital area, and it's like such a real reaction. He's like, oh, and then he like, I mean, I think they use that. I think they used that clip at the beginning. I think they maybe not. I feel like I saw it a lot. So I feel like maybe it was part of like maybe one of the later episodes.
I just loved when he slips walking out of the bathtub.
Oh my gosh, it's so
gotta be
good.
hard to do without hurting yourself.
Yes.
But so then that same episode 6, where they're like working together on the rent and figuring out what happened. Chrissy has a great line, and this is like very Chrissy. And when the cop's like, you had an envelope of $300. And it said rent money on the envelope. And the cop goes, no one's that stupid. And Chrissy goes, we are.
Yeah. That was good.
Yeah, but I do like when they're all working together, and it's because then it's like it gets kind of tired after a while, the Jack and Chrissy thing.
Yes, and even like the dog, like the dog episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
When they're they have a what episode was it?
The belly rub from the kitchen.
Oh, No Children, No Dogs. Yeah,
overhears.
they're in the kitchen, and it's just all this innuendo throughout the whole conversation.
But that was most of the series, though, too.
But then it was So Janet is eavesdropping and hears them talking and says, "Oh no, up higher makes it feel better," or something, and talking about rubbing the belly, and they're talking about the dog, and
her face is contorting beyond, like she's like literally grabbing the sides of her face and pulling it down.
Yes.
I mean, it's like that, so
very
over
exaggerated.
That she was playing for like the cheap seats on that, like, and again, that's where her theater kind of came out. So
in that one, actually, it's funny in that episode there, the episode 4 about the dogs and the children. It's called No Children, No Dogs.
Yeah.
There were a lot of Me Too stuff in there. There was talk about a handsy boss. And I wrote even actually in episode 4, hitting on Chrissy is getting really old.
Mm-hmm.
Larry is introduced.
Yeah.
The one and only episode he's in, which I was surprised about. And they were, I wrote down that he was in $25 debt to Larry. And he's like, I'll pay you somehow. The money stuff in these episodes that cracked me up.
Yeah.
But there were lots of hijinks. Oh, and then I did laugh when they had the dog food and they were trying to hide it from Mr. Roper.
Oh, my God.
And Mr. Roper ends up eating it.
Well, because he throws the wrong thing away.
Yes,
right? Yeah.
Yes. And he says, I'm so hungry I could eat a horse.
Oh. Yeah. The Ropers.
Yeah, let's talk about the Ropers.
Loved them.
Loved
them. Am I wrong?
I love the Ropers, but I will say some of the things that Stanley said did make me uncomfortable, and I think it was mostly like the normal stuff, like when he would say, that's not normal.
Oh, for sure.
He's not normal. Like that stuff didn't fly with me like it used to. Like I obviously I'm a little bit more in tune to like real life now. And it did make me a little bit uncomfortable. The whole Tinkerbell thing.
With the wrist and everything.
The wrist.
It's the whole thing. Yeah.
Just the constant jabbing that you're not normal. Like that was really, I did not like that at all. I loved Helen. Helen is hilarious. Oh, but I will say one thing I did love about Stanley, when he would laugh at his own jokes.
Yeah.
I would laugh right along with him. It was, and not even at the joke, but like at him laughing.
Yes.
It was hilarious. How he'd turn away and like, almost like an Ernie laugh.
Yeah.
So funny.
Well, so what I meant before was like their rapport together.
The two of them together. Is
yeah.
so good.
I didn't like 98% of what he said to Jack, but like the two of them together were very funny, and for that reason, like just jabbing each other. I mean, and it's funny because I did sort of binge this, and that didn't get stale for me. I actually looked forward to it.
I did too. I really loved both of them, and I liked how different they are, but you still get that they're
why they're together. They're a couple.
But what's interesting is I'm watching it, and I was wondering what your opinion would be on it because they were very Al and Peg Bundy-ish.
Yes.
And I know you didn't like the rapport with Al and Peg.
They weren't.
They were a little.
The stars of the show.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. Yeah, I mean. Yeah.
It was more of a side gig. Yeah, I get it.
And I think because if we go back to Married with Children, I do think Al was meaner. Mm-hmm. I just do. I think because Al's insults to Peggy were really about like being a mother and a wife and a woman, where Pegs were like, you have hair in your ears, Al. Like, it didn't balance to me.
So it's
this
a little
balances.
Different. This is more balanced.
Because Mrs. Roper often instigated the insults.
She was definitely the instigator.
She was great.
Because Stanley couldn't have cared less. Like, he was
right.
just like sitting around, doing whatever, watching TV or reading the newspaper. And then she would be like, oh, there you are. I don't know, picking insults,
She was great.
She's
Lindley.
Yeah, she was great.
God.
And then they obviously they had a spinoff called The Ropers.
That's right.
Did you ever watch any?
I did watch that. Yeah.
With what's his name?
Jeffrey Tambor.
Jeffrey Tambor. I actually liked it. I was young. I don't know how I would feel about it now, but it only lasted one season.
Yeah.
And it was kind of sad that they didn't have anything else to do. They couldn't come back because they'd already been replaced.
I wonder what goes through an actor's mind. He's like, you're getting your own show. And then it bombs, and you're like, bye now.
Damn it.
I was like, bye. Didn't work out. Can't go back. Mr. Furley's in your apartment now.
Yeah.
Don Knotts.
And I have to say, like, obviously we didn't watch those seasons, but I did like him as the replacement. Like, I thought he was a good replacement. Like, he was just crazy enough and weird enough and different enough.
Yes.
Like, I thought that was a smart move, not just to have, like, this weird, like, single old man, like, to replace.
He was great. The cast couple. They did a lot of great.
They did
casting.
a good casting. Great casting.
What else? What else do we have?
What else? I don't know.
I mean, really quick.
Yeah.
Did you like it?
I did. Okay. I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. I think I liked it. Yeah. I mean, it's strange watching it through an old roommate's eye, because I don't think sometimes I can't enjoy it as fully because I'm like taking notes and I'm kind of analyzing it a little bit. So it's a little different in that sense, but I did enjoy it. I really, really, really enjoyed John Ritter.
Yeah.
And that did make me a little bit sad.
Yep. I think I when we talked about revisiting this, my first thought was I'm going to cringe because of the gay.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking that
the
same
gay
thing.
comments. And it was not as bad as I thought, truly. Meaning like my reaction to it, I was like, oh, I mean, whatever. It's like Tinkerbell and whatever. Although the bar scene, that actually kind of bothered me when the guy, the bully at the bar, does like the limp wrist thing to Jack. Because I'm like, wow, they didn't hold back on these insults.
They really didn't.
Yeah.
And I think that's so different from today. I mean, you could never remake something like that today. You could never do another Three's Company. I think there'd be too much outcry.
Well,
can you imagine the writer's room for a remake of, like, what would they write?
Well, I guess.
I really don't think they could do it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
I would think maybe it would have to take place in the past, but then it's like, and I think there's a reason, obviously Will and Grace takes place in New York, like where these like, well, I don't know. I mean, we have Schitt's Creek where there's a gay couple and there's never a gay joke. Ever.
Never.
Ever. And that's like sort of a, like, I don't want to say backwater town, but like in like a little, it's in a little.
I think that's pretty accurate.
It's a cute little town. It's an interesting point. I don't know. I think, but I think to that point, I think it's important. It is important. Like, I know a lot of people get angry. And it's like, oh, they put a gay character in a superhero movie, or they put a gay character in a Disney movie. It's like, but this is why it's important. Like, because little kids do watch these things, and if they don't see any gay characters, they're going to think that it's not normal. And going back to our very first point, like, so I think some of the insults, none of it hurt me more. Like, it was like, okay, and I actually did enjoy it. I can't say I would watch season 2 and just get into this whole of Three's Company, start binging. But what I remembered about it, I still loved. What I was afraid or anxious about seeing again didn't hit me this hard. But the chemistry of the cast is just incredible. Chemistry
is great. Yes, absolutely. And then, do you want to take a break?
Yes, I need some water.
I need a water too, and I'm afraid to take a sip because I know you're going to hear like every little gurgle in my mouth. So let's take a quick little break, and we will be right back. We'll talk about a little bit more, and then we'll do our questions.
Final thoughts and questions.
All right, we'll be right back. Hey there, it's Christina and Brian. We just wanted to take this break to thank you for listening to Old Roommates, the only podcast that revisits pop culture through a middle-aged lens. Please subscribe to Old Roommates on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And give us a rating or review while you're there.
If you have any questions, comments, or observations, shoot us an email at oldroommatespod@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Old Roommates. Thanks for listening, and now, back to the show.
And we're back.
We're back.
So that was a nice little
hydrating break.
I drank my weight in water. So I had a couple of
final thoughts, sure.
Final thoughts, but a couple things that I wrote down that I thought was really funny. So in episode 3, it was the birthday party episode it's Janet's birthday.
Yes.
And they're talking about they're going to have a party for her.
Oh,
and it was just the 3 of them for one thing. And did you notice the size of the cake?
Gigantic.
It was like a sheet cake.
It was sheet cake.
It was a sheet cake for 3 people. I'm like, what is going on? Am I missing something? But it was literally 3 people.
What got me about that is they were wearing hats. It was very sad.
It was the saddest
birthday party.
I mean, sorry, Janet. I don't know if Chrissy's birthday party would be
also
the same.
Why do they eat it? And like they set up a table in the living room. Mm-hmm. Why didn't they just do it in the kitchen? And it's not like there are that many people.
I know. Well, it's another like stage.
Yeah, staging
set,
thing. Yeah,
right. It's that sort of thing. They also I have a typewriter. There was a typewriter in the episode, which was kind of funny, which I thought was like you don't see that very often these days. And then
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I forget what it was for. I think they were, I don't know what it was. But then the other thing that I wanted to point out was in episode 6, they were talking about this, the $300 was missing, and they're trying to find it. That was like the whole premise of the whole episode. They couldn't find the $300. And then Jack came back and he said, I can, now, keep in mind that the rent is due, like it's overdue. They're avoiding the Ropers because they don't want to have to tell them they don't have the rent. So it's overdue. And Jack says, well, I can get a loan from my school. Really? In like a day? Like that's kind of a quick turnaround to apply for a loan, get approved, and get the money within, a day or two? So I thought that was really funny. I'm like, okay, I'm not sure that's a realistic solution.
And then he didn't get it because his dad made too much money.
Right.
Which...
Yeah. So,
how old is
this...
Jack? Like, there's a point where your parents' income shouldn't, well, I'm getting way too deep, but, like, it shouldn't matter.
Right.
I mean, it does matter when you're a minor. It shouldn't matter when you're in your mid-20s. I can't, right? Well, how old is Jack in that show?
I guess if you had to, that's a great question. That's a great question. I would say... 25,
26.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, late 20s.
Okay.
But he's still going to school, right? He's going to cooking school.
Yeah. But he can go to cooking school
at
any age.
probably mid-20s, I guess. But if he had to have a cosigner for a loan, I think that they would, I don't know. It's kind of strange.
It
I don't
didn't make
know.
much sense. Oh, and
anyway.
Oh, God, and that was so creepy. You didn't even talk about him. The loan officer, the loan guy.
Oh,
Did you find him so disturbing?
You're living with two girls? Like, that was like the general...
It was great.
Oh, it was
gross.
It was gross.
Gross.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So, on that note, are we ready for our questions?
Time. Sure.
Okay. So, why don't you do your question, and then I have an F, Marry, Kill.
Cool. So, my question is, Jack, did you hear that? It's my stomach. This microphone is picking up everything. I can hear it in my ears.
I'll try to edit it out.
No, don't. Leave it in. It's real. Jack, Tripper, Janet, Wood, Chrissy, Snow.
Mm-hmm.
You have to... Oh, how should we do this? Pick basically, do you think would make the best roommate?
The best roommate.
Imagining a 3-bedroom apartment. Imagine it's not.
Okay.
Yeah. Imagine a 3-bedroom apartment. Oh shit.
So
wait,
no,
do
it
you
would be a
replace
2-bedroom.
one?
It would be a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah, 2-bedroom.
It would just
be
me and one other
person.
roommate.
Yeah.
So, I mean, okay, so I've had my share of roommates.
So I move out.
Back in the day. Out. Okay, you move out.
I moved out. Jack shows up, then Chrissy, then Janet.
So I think my initial thought would be Jack. However, I think it would, like, if he, like, made passes at me and things, it would make me very uncomfortable. So it would have to be, maybe he would actually have to be gay. But I think he would make a great roommate. Like, I think he was, like, a fun person and a nice friend, and he could cook.
Yeah, he was all of those things.
He seemed responsible. He's going to school, like, has a future. So I think that as long as he never... like hit on me, or as long as there was no like any kind of attraction between either one of us, it would be Jack. If it was Jack, like as he was written, like sex maniac, I would probably choose Janet. Mm-hmm. I think that Janet is probably the most stable out of all three of them. She's probably, she seems like nice, and she also seems like someone that if I wanted to have like some of my own space, like she would respect that. Mm-hmm. So I think, so that would be my answer. Definitely not Chrissy. She would drive me crazy.
I picked Jack for you. I did. I feel like you guys would have a blast.
Oh my God, I would love to be his friend.
Yeah.
But for sure. As long as there wasn't that like sexual stuff going on, then I think it would be perfect.
Cool. So I was right. Yay.
Great job. All right, so I have an F, Marry, Kill for you. Oh, God. And the 3 that I have, it's not going to be pretty.
Oh no.
It's not pretty.
Okay.
So here.
I thought. Oh, never mind. Good.
All right. So here are the 3. Stanley.
Awesome.
Stanley Roper.
Yeah.
Ralph Furley.
The Don Knotts character.
Yes.
Okay.
And Larry. Boom, chicka, boom, 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 boom. I forgot the theme song.
Gosh. Well, here we go.
Okay,
So
here we go.
I am having sex with Larry.
Okay, good choice.
I will marry Stanley.
You will
I
marry
really will.
Stanley.
I will. I'll do it. I'll marry Norman Fell.
Okay.
And I will have to kill Don Knotts, Mr. Furley.
All right.
I just couldn't imagine him in any scenario. Stanley, just because I think at the end of the day, he is dedicated. He wants good things for the building. And you know what? He doesn't want to have sex. That totally works. I would not be attracted to him very much in the first place.
Oh my gosh.
But I was going to say, it was kind of like a weird, cute, never thought this before, the bartender at the Regal Beagle.
Oh, yeah.
I never even
He was
occurred.
such a non-character.
Non-character.
Yeah.
But then, like, the couple times I was like, oh, he's like a handsome man.
Yeah, he was a good bartender, too.
You could have put him in the mix. I wouldn't have minded that. So mine for you, because I did it in FMK for you.
You did.
I was much nicer. Jack.
Yes.
Jack.
Okay.
Just do it anyway.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, wait, what did you say? What was your answer?
Oh, so I was completely wrong.
Oh, what would Mr. Furley be for me?
I think I
Oh my God, am I going to throw up?
You might throw up. Well, I was trying to think long term. I thought you would marry Larry.
No.
I know. It was a tough one. It was a tough one.
He'd be exhausting.
He would be exhausting. And I thought...
Oh, God. And you know what? Next question. So mine for you would have been, because I'm nicer, Jack, Mr. Roper, and the bully.
Oh, the bully. Oh, boy. Let's see.
The nautical sailor man.
Well, I definitely would marry Jack. Yeah.
Then we know the rest.
Well, do you? I would not have sex with Mr. Roper.
Oh, so I was right. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, cool.
But I don't know what you would think. I mean, bullies are mean. Maybe you want to just kill him. But he was also buff.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I liked how when Mr. Roper stuck up for himself, the guy respected him.
True. And honestly, like, if it's just an F thing, it's just a one-night thing. I mean,
and that's
honestly,
why
maybe not even a night.
Christina, it's why you're going to the Regal Beagle. That's why.
Is that why you go to the Regal Beagle,
That's why whenever, back in the day.
I go there to just hang out with my friends, have a burger.
Oh, my gosh. Are we done with Three's Company?
I think we are.
I think so.
Awesome.
So all in all, I did enjoy it.
I also did.
It's fun. It's fun. Good camaraderie.
It's fun. You have to remember that, it's in the 70s. You have to kind of take it with a grain of salt, but fun show,
stuff.
good acting,
Yep.
good chemistry.
And that is it for us in this episode of Old Roommates. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to Old Roommates on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Give us a rating or review while you're there, please. We love our ratings.
If you have an idea for the show, a suggestion, or a comment, email us at oldroommatespod@gmail.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Old Roommates. This is Christina.
This is Brian.
Thanks again for listening. Till next time.